Game day, LSU and USC at long last. We've got your final preview and prediction. It's Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thrilled to have you aboard with us on a game day edition of Locked on LSU. Y'all, just a brief moment, if I could. Started this podcast back in 2018. It was the week of the LSU-Georgia game. Of course, LSU blew out Georgia and stormed the field. Did this podcast from 2018 through parts of 2022. Had to step aside, turned it over to Caroline Fenton, who did an awesome job, and I'm so thrilled to be back. So this is my first game day back as host of Locked on LSU, and I'm fired up to be here. And I can't thank all of you enough for making us your first listen every single day. The progress we made in a very short amount of time is incredible, and I am sincerely and extremely grateful. So thank you for being here with us. All right, it's Locked on LSU. We got a lot to get to. I will get to my LSU USC prediction, some final news and notes. I got an update on Chris Hilton, what I think LSU is going to do actually offensively, ear to ground, a couple little tidbits here. But we've been in Las Vegas since Thursday night, and I can tell you, walking around Las Vegas on Saturday, this was a town painted in purple and gold, as you would expect. Now, I don't know that LSU is going to own Allegiant Stadium, okay? You're talking about a stadium that bumps up on 70,000 seats. Southern Cal is a day trip for a lot of USC fans. It's 4 hours, so think Baton Rouge to Houston. So SC fans could drive from LA on Sunday morning. Certainly, there's a lot of SC fans who live in Las Vegas who will be at the game. Something I've been told is that Raider fans were encouraged to buy tickets. We'll see where the secondary market lands. But overall, I think it's going to be a pretty even split despite the proximity to LA. But in Las Vegas, when you go to sports bars and you go to the casinos and the restaurants, you see nothing but purple and gold all over this town. So LSU is certainly well represented. Now, we will get into what my final notes are for LSU, but I did have a chance to visit with Ryan Abraham. He is the founder, publisher, editor at USCsports.com. And I asked him a few questions that were pertinent. Now, we've gone over everything by this point, right? With LSU and USC, every facet of the game you can imagine. We've talked about Miller Moss. We've talked about all the defensive transfers. We've talked about the skill guys on offense for SC. We've talked about Lincoln Riley. We've talked about all of it, okay? Of course, Woody Marks, the Mississippi State running back who's now transferred to USC. We've talked about all of it, okay? So Zachariah Branch, the great wide receiver and kick returner, we've been through all of it. So there were two things, though, that I wanted to ask Ryan Abraham about specifically for this game. One was a blueprint, which we'll get to in a second, for USC to win it. The other was special teams, because we've talked a ton all offseason about Miller Moss and Garrett Nussmeier. We've talked about two bad defenses and two new defensive coordinators, new defensive staffs, turnover on the field, on the coaching staff. We've talked about so many different elements. LSU's offensive line against that USC defensive front. We've talked about every element you can imagine of this game. The one thing we haven't spent enough time talking about is USC's special teams. And Ryan Abraham from USCsports.com gave us about a 60-second thumbnail of the USC special teams groups.
Yeah, I think, very similar to LSU, they've struggled, I think, on the special teams side. They probably lost that cotton ball to Tulane because of a special teams gap where you're taking a kickoff at the 2-yard line or whatever. So I feel like he's tried to address it in the offseason. They bring in a long snapper they're going to put on scholarship, Hank Pepper, to kind of fix up the problems they had there. Michael Lance was the kicker at Georgia Southern. They brought him in, even though their incumbent is still there. But there's been a competition. It looks like Lance is going to win the job. I think they've put more resources into special teams, trying to make it better. They weren't very good at putting kickoffs into the end zone and, gave up a bunch of returns. So I think they've tried to address it, like I'm sure like LSU has as well, but it has been an issue. And, we've seen LSU struggle in the first game with some bad special teams plays. I think that could be a big determining factor, but I think at least on the USC side, they really tried to address some of the problems that they had. Last year, Dennis Lynch would hit some tough field goals, but he missed a lot of them between like the 30 to 40 range, which you got to get those. So they're hoping Michael Lynch can fix that and, not having snapping issues to go forward with that. But it's definitely been an issue the last couple of years. It's something they've worked on.
Not a ton of confidence there. Sounds a lot like what you might hear from an LSU fan about special teams. For what it's worth, when you look at USC, a year ago, they were just 10 of 15. Now, Dennis Lynch is back. 10 of 15 on field goals. As you heard there, 5 of 8 from 30 to 39 yards, just 2 of 4 from 20 to 29 yards. Oddly, a perfect 2 of 2 and from 40 to 49 and 1 of 1 from 50 plus. So of the kicks 40 and beyond, they were 3 for 3. It was everything inside of that was a problem for SC. So anything but a given for Dennis Lynch there with the SC special teamers. And 33% of the kickoffs a year ago for SC resulted in touchbacks. So keep an eye there. There is a possibility for LSU and Xavier Thomas, the great returner, to return kickoffs and punts in this game. And maybe LSU could flip field because of USC's inadequacies. Now, LSU's got their own. We've talked plenty about that, okay, in fairness. But special teams is something we have not talked enough about on both sides here over the last 6 months or so. And I think that third phase, if everything else is equal, that third phase is the thing that could make or break this game either way. Now, I had one more question for Ryan Abraham of USCsports.com, and it was, if Lincoln, aside from scoring 55 points, if Lincoln Riley could have this go exactly to plan, how would it look? Here's what he said.
I think just being able to get some stops on the defensive side, not giving up third and longs and missed tackles and a lot of busted coverages. Just keeping you don't have so much pressure on the offense that they have to score every time they touch the ball, giving a young quarterback like Miller Moss some leeway to be able to hand the ball off more. And, maybe it's 3rd and 5 and you try to run the ball and you don't force them to throw something and pick up a first down, great, otherwise punt it. And then give him an opportunity to find those young wide receivers. So I think it starts on the defensive side where you're just so many games, you just felt like Caleb Williams knew he had to score every single time he touched the ball. That's a lot of pressure. So I think for Lincoln Riley, if you just don't put that pressure on the offense and let them kind of click, they'll score some points. But it's a lot easier to when maybe you're up by a touchdown or you feel like the defense can get a stop versus, okay, we have to score every time or we're going to lose this game.
Sounds really familiar to what you'd expect Brian Kelly to say. Let's go get some stops defensively, be efficient, protect the football, all that sort of stuff. We'll see how it may play out. Now, I did have the opportunity to get a few little tidbits on LSU. The Tigers did travel on Saturday. The team landed in Las Vegas at 5:30 local time here in Las Vegas on Saturday. So it'd be 7:30 Central, 5:30 here local time in Las Vegas. I have some tidbits on the team. We'll get to that, and I'll give you a pick as we continue here on a game day edition of Locked on LSU, your team every day. Yo, I'm so thrilled to have 5 Hour Energy as one of our partners here on Locked on LSU. If you're listening, you won't see this, but if you're watching, you'll see it. It's as I record this Saturday evening, we're going over to Circa to watch the Saturday night football games. And before I go, I'm going to take this 5 Hour Energy Grape Extra Strength. It's been my go-to for years on air, on After Further Review. 5 Hour Energy. It gives me great focus. It gives me energy throughout the day when I need to be laser focused to get through a 3-hour radio show. If I'm going to be hanging out, watching football games all night, if it's after lunch when you got that 2:30 feeling, maybe you need to tackle a to-do list, or you want a little jolt before your workout. 5 Hour Energy is a great option. It'll give you that feeling of alertness, the energy that you need to kind of get in the zone. That's been my personal experience. When you're talking about a very little sugar, low calories, you're talking about a great option that's not going to give you the jittery feeling, the crash. I never, ever get that. I just get laser focus when I take 5 Hour Energy. And we've got a great option for you right now with 0 sugar. It's convenient. It's portable. You can take it in just seconds in that convenient energy shot. So go to 5hourenergy.com. It's the number 5, 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today. Use my promo code. It's Locked On CFB, Locked On CFB, to receive 20% off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. So go to 5hourenergy.com today. That's 5hourenergy.com today. We're also brought to you by our friends over at Ultimate CFB. I'm fired up about this. If you haven't tried it yet, if you want to make them take a moment and give you a heads up on this brand new mobile game, we've talked about it a little bit. You're going to love it. It's Ultimate College Football HC, as in head coach. In this amazing simulation, you step into the shoes of a head coach. You can lead your college football program to glory. You can imagine being the head coach of the LSU Tigers. You recruit the players. You hire the assistant coaches. You oversee training camps. You handle scholarships. You control every detail of the program. Can you handle it? Find out. The thing I really love as well is you actually responsible for calling the play. So if you've sat at home and watched college football games and thought, why are they doing that? Well, here's your chance to call the plays. It's Ultimate College Football HC. It's completely free. It has no ads. It's 100% playable offline as well. So you can play on the go as you want, when you want. Of course, we have a special offer here on Locked On LSU. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, that's all caps, Locked On CFB in the game store, and get a free boost for your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk. It'll get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, visit ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up in the app stores. It's Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your legacy today. So LSU touched down here in Las Vegas on Saturday about 5:30 local time. A couple of tidbits that I have for you. We've been keeping an eye on Chris Hilton. Of course, this is so disappointing because Hilton is a senior receiver. You know that. He was injured 2 Saturdays ago in the final scrimmage that we, the media, were allowed to see. They were running a 7-on-7 drill. Hilton went through contact against Jordan Allen, front left corner of the end zone, made a beautiful touchdown catch, came up hobbled. Left practice, has been limited ever since. Brian Kelly early in the week, labeled him as questionable. They were trying to ramp him up throughout the week. And the last note that I got on Saturday evening is that Hilton did travel, but is doubtful for the game. So that kind of maps with what I had heard throughout the week, that he hadn't really progressed as much as they had thought or hoped that he might. So Chris Hilton, it appears, doubtful for the game on Sunday night, and that is certainly disappointing. The other tidbit that was very interesting to me is that it sure feels like the way this game plan is set up is that Josh Williams is going to start at running back, but the plan is for Caleb Jackson to get the lion's share of the carries. Keep an eye on that, because something we've talked about throughout is LSU plans on running the football. They plan on running the football. Will Campbell told you that point blank. Brian Kelly has alluded to it all throughout fall camp. And if you're trying to protect your defense, you condense the game by running the football. And my assumption all along has been, listening to Brian Kelly talk about it, that Josh Williams would be that guy. Got the number 18 jersey. He's a 6-year player, and it would be Williams. Now, Williams has never had more than 100 carries in a season, but Caleb Williams only had 31 carries last year as a freshman. So I don't know that we're looking at an opportunity where either of these guys is super experienced, where you would trust to ride them for 20 carries in a game. But based on the conversations I had Saturday evening, it sure feels like the plan is to start Josh Williams and to ride Caleb Jackson in this game. And if there's one prediction I made offensively, I made a lot of them. And I think Aaron Nussmeier is going to be fine. I think the offensive line is going to be great. I think they're going to run the ball. Told you that. I think that CJ Daniels and Kyron Lacey are probably your best options at receiver. I think Daniels is probably the security blanket. Wouldn't surprise me at all if CJ Daniels leads you in receptions this year. But I think Chris Hilton, provided he's healthy, would lead you in touchdown catches like Brian Thomas, because he's got the big playability. But it sure seems to me, based on some of the conversations I've had this week, like the game plan on Sunday is to ride Caleb Jackson. And one of the predictions I made is that Caleb Jackson is the guy that nobody in the SEC knows his name today, but by the end of the season they will. And Sunday night, prime time against Southern Cal, might be his coming out party. Keep an eye on Caleb Jackson. It seems like that may be the guy who's going to get the big opportunity. I'll project starting lineups for LSU. Defensively, I don't think there's any change. I think Gio Paez, Jacoby, and Guillory are your starting tackles. I think Savion Jones, Braden Swinson are your starting ends. I think your starting linebackers are going to be Harold Perkins and Greg Penn. Major Burns is going to start at the star position. Sage Ryan, Ashton Stamps, I think, start at corner. And Jordan Gilbert, Jordan Allen would be your starting safeties. I think you're going to see a full two-deep rotation on that defense. They are going to play with numbers. You are going to see a lot of different bodies, especially in the secondary. I think Jair Brown is your starting nickel when they run in that formation, which you're going to see a lot of nickel because you know USC is going to throw the football. Offensively, we know what the starting offensive line is going to be like. Left to right, Will Campbell, Garrett Dellinger, DJ Chester, Miles Frazier, Emory Jones. Mason Taylor will be your starting tight end. Garrett Nussmeier will be your quarterback. Josh Williams will start at running back. The receivers are going to be interesting because you got Kyron Lacey and CJ Daniels. That's a given. But if Chris Hilton can't go, do you start Kyle Parker or do you maybe go with a two tight end set? Maybe do we see Kamorian Pimpton draw the start? Or is it maybe a veteran player like Aaron Anderson, of course, a five-star who started his career at Bama, played a season at LSU a year ago, now in his third season. Do we see Aaron Anderson get a start? It may really very well depend on just what the first look in formation is for LSU, but I think we're going to see a lot of those guys. As for the game itself, I've made my prediction on several different platforms, LouisianaSports.net. If you want to go read my prediction column, you can read it there. Made it on my radio show after further review, and certainly I'll make the exact same prediction here so to be consistent. I think LSU wins the football game, but I do not think this is easy. I think there is a general feeling of comfort among LSU fans because you've seen SC struggle defensively. They lose Caleb Williams. All the reasons why LSU would look at SC and think this is a win for LSU. SC is thinking the same thing, however. And I think these teams are mirror images of each other. I think you have two really good head coaches. I think you've got veteran quarterbacks who have waited their turn. I think you've improved at defensive coordinator. You have righted the ship defensively, although I don't think either is elite. I think you have question marks on special teams. But for me, when I look at a game and I think, okay, this is a push, I always look at two things. If home field isn't in consideration, which clearly it's not here, it's a neutral site. I look at quarterback and I look at head coach. I think quarterback's a push. Miller Moss and Garrett Nussmeier are the same guy. Now, maybe as the season goes along, one may emerge, one may struggle. We'll see. But today, they're the same guy. And then I'll look at head coach. And Lincoln Riley is a magnificent head coach and a great play caller. Brian Kelly has been a better head coach over 33 years. I would give a slight edge to Brian Kelly there. And we could certainly look at special teams as we've discussed. But I look at this game and I think there's one glaring difference between the two teams, if everything else is equal, and it's LSU's offensive line. LSU's offensive line, if you look at both teams, both sides of the ball, the LSU offense, the LSU defense, the USC offense, the USC defense, special teams coaching, all of it. The one glaring outlier is LSU's offensive line. It might be the best offensive line in the country. It's certainly the best individual position group, either team, either side of the ball Sunday. And if LSU has the opportunity to line up, protect Garrett Nussmeier, and run behind that offensive line, I think that's LSU's opportunity to win this game. I do think LSU ends its 4-game season opener losing streak. I don't put too much into the losing streak, as we've talked about all throughout this week. I think a lot of that is contextual. It matters, with situation and circumstance. But I do think LSU's offensive line, the ability to line up and run the football is the difference. And I like LSU in a close game, 31-27, and I like a play on the under. I think it goes under the total if I was going to bet this game, which I don't know if I will because I don't like betting the Tigers because I don't trust myself to be 100% objective. Look at me. I'm wearing an LSU polo right now. But I do like LSU to win it in a close game, and I like a play to the under with LSU and USC. So there's my pick officially on the record. All we have left to do is tee it up, kick it off, and when it's over, dissect it all. We'll do that all season long right here on Locked on LSU. Thanks so much for making us your first listen every single day. If you're new, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review, and let a friend know. By the way, if you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And please be sure to let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.